Hi, welcome to Riffs on Writing, where we answer your writing and publishing questions in 10 minutes or less. Today, we're going to talk about our process to get your book published.
That's right. So we'll just talk to you through what we do to get like the completed manuscripts into a book and into the world. And that will be the nuts and bolts of the way anybody does it, but we're going to just use our method as a very specific example.
Mm-hmm. We have one of the reasons we're doing this today too is because this happens quite often when we're working with people where they ask for extensions, which is not always a problem, and it doesn't sound like it should be a problem, but once the wheels get moving, it can be a problem. So what happens is, I'll just start with the very basics, is you get us your completed manuscript. So presumably we've done edits or you've had them done out of house. We make sure we've looked through your book. We've made sure that the copy is all good. So we've done all the proofreading, and now we have virtual paper.
There's a file that's finished. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we're looking at the next stage. There's a bunch of things that have to happen, right? So one of the first things that we ask is like to get the cover designer started, right? So we aren't cover designers. Most publishing houses either have in-house cover designers or do what we do, where you go with a contracted cover designer. And there's two things about why we do that right away. One is you got to get on their calendar, right? So like sometimes they're booking 2 weeks out, sometimes they're booking 3 months out. So you got to get on their calendar. And two, the cover is one of the things we need to be able to set the book up on retailers, whether we're going to do that on a pre-order or just let it come out when it comes out.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually even start that sooner if we can. So sometimes we're still editing people's books and we're already thinking about the cover. And just on a purely sales artistic way, the cover books, the covers sell books, right? That's what really happens. So we're thinking about all of those things as we're reading your book, and we definitely take input from people. We want that input. We have a very comprehensive form that gets filled out, but at the same time, for us, this is that idea of how are we going to sell the book? What should the cover look like? What other books are similar in the marketplace with similar covers? Because that's what people are buying. That's what's instantly recognizable for the public. Yeah. So that's one sort of aspect of that. Then the other thing we're looking at too is getting books up to retailers takes time. It's not just an instant. It can be, but we also have to think about things like the layout, the interior layout of your book. So we have programs that help us do this. We're not, old school typesetters, although that would be so cool. And there are some that exist, but we don't do that. And so we're also looking at the layout. We're looking at the font. We're looking at, and that is a back and forth. That is something we have to think about.
Yeah. And so you've got sort of two design levels. You've got the cover and then you've got the interior. And then you have all of the pieces around the book that help sell the book. So we call it metadata. It's things like keywords. What are the keywords that you're going to put into the retailer that somebody can search for and your book will pop up? And then things like categories. What categories on Barnes & Noble are you going to put your book in? And we do those things for our clients because there's a little bit of nuance and business knowledge that you need, industry knowledge that you need for that. But those things also have to happen before the book can even be up for sale. So that all has to be done. And then we also assign our clients ISBNs, so International Standard Book Numbers, so that those books have unique identifiers. That's how they get connected to things like Library of Congress. It's the way that they get searched in algorithms. So you have to have one of those for every format of book. So prints, ebook, audiobook. If you did a large print book, you need one ISBN for each of those. So we set that up when we set up all the metadata as well.
Yeah. So, and again, all of that takes time. So if a client comes to us and we've already put the book up, for example, we'll use Amazon because it's instantly recognizable international. If
Yeah.
we put a book up on Amazon already, and a client comes to us and they say, "Oh, I'm not ready yet. Can you take it down?"
Mm-hmm.
This
And
makes
the answer to that is sort of.
sort of.
So on Amazon, and they actually have the strictest policies, so they're a really good example. On Amazon, you can move your publication date one time of a distance of up to 30 days. So let's say you were going to publish on September 15th, you could move it once to October 15th. But if you can't move it again. At that point, you would have to cancel the pre-order if you wanted to move it. And if you cancel more than one pre-order in a year, Amazon will take away your ability to do pre-orders, period. That would be for us as publishers, but it would be most particularly for you. And that can be a big deal. It can really slow your sales down. It can also mean that you're like scrambling to get a book up at the very last minute, as opposed to having the time to load it carefully and make sure everything's okay. So.
Yeah, so that's something to definitely think about and definitely consider. And also, if people have already pre-ordered your book, then you lose those sales automatically because money gets returned because the book was taken down. So something definitely to consider. And so there are a lot of moving pieces that have to happen before your book comes up. It sounds very simple, but it's actually not.
Right.
So our job is to help these books get out into the world, but we don't always tell people this while we're working with them because it's just a lot to think about. It's a lot to stress about. Those are the stresses we take on so that our clients, for example, don't have to.
Yes.
But if you self-publish, that is something to consider. And also it's something to understand if you're working with a traditional publisher, they're thinking about that for you. So when they're setting deadlines for you, there's a reason.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not an arbitrary, like let's use Caroline's book for an example. Her book comes out December 17th, right? If we're thinking about this sort of like in a very low-key, simple process way, maybe she has to have it done by December 1st. But no, she actually already had to have several rounds of editing complete. The cover is done. They've picked the keywords, they've picked the metadata, all of that is done, and we're still months out from the publication. And it's not because the publisher just wants to be arbitrary or like help themselves. It's because it's the only way to safely do it without potentially really flubbing it up on the back end. And no one wants to do that. Yeah.
Exactly. So there you go. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email us, ask a question in the comments, or fill out a form and chat with us for half an hour. We'd be happy to answer your questions that way as well.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.